Welcome to the Veterans Psychedelic Discourse. We are a group that advocates for safe and responsible exploration of mental health treatments. And this is not a platform for the solicitation of illegal substances. Our guest for today is Sincere, and Sincere is a veteran of the U.S. Army who's dedicated to helping others heal and grow. With over 12 years of experience as a shaman, psychonaut, and psychedelic integration coach, Sincere offers transformative journeys rooted in ancient healing practices. Recognized by the Detroit Free Press and National Geographic, Sincere's work in traditional healing has made harm reduction and holistic well-being, utilizing sacred plants and practices like Kambo, snake venom, and hapé. So without further ado, we have Sincere with us. And can you, hearing that an Army veteran is now a shaman, my mind starts to reel and be like, how did this all fall into place? So would you mind giving us a little bit of backstory of your life and how this all came to be, and then where you are now?
Indeed. And to really go in depth, I think I need to start when I was born. But I'll make it quick. I'm a veteran, a military brat. So my father was in the military. My mother and father was high school sweethearts. I was born in Germany. And my father ended up getting put out the military, dishonorable discharge for selling drugs and other things. And I ended up living with my mother in Colorado Springs, Colorado. My mother was a very religious woman. We went to church probably 5 times a week. So the thought process and the understanding of God and all things surrounding that was instituted into me at an early age up until about 10 or 11 years old. At that age, I was sent to Detroit with my father, who was a self-proclaimed street dude and was very violent, very, when you think about street guys and the things they do, he was one of them. So I went from a very religious background to a very violent background and raising. He forced these things upon me. I was like, I remember sometime, running home from 2 guys trying to jump on me, and he was like, "We don't run." And he taped a pole to my hand, and he told me, "Don't come home until that pole was filled with those dudes' blood." So this is the forcing of violence that was put upon me. At 17 years old, I left delayed entry program. I joined the military when I was 17. Like, let me get out of here. And a lot of people find this as a crazy statement, but that was my first time feeling free. I had to go into the U.S. Army to become free. So just that quote in itself is like, wait, what? So I served in the military. I did a couple tours overseas, things like this. And when I came home, I did a tour overseas. No, it was not a couple. It was a. And when I came back, the idea of staying in for what I was doing or getting out, I battled with, because I always wanted to be a soldier. But once I realized the things that we did, how we operated, and some of the things that I just was not agreeing with in my soul, I made the decision to get out. When I got out the military and went back home, my PTSD was really high, and I started smoking cannabis very heavily to pacify it. And so after a few years, I was introduced to psilocybin mushrooms. My first trip was 7 grams, and that night it eliminated and cured my PTSD overnight, 1 trip. And at that point, I knew that there was something that I didn't know about this. Now, this was like 15, 17 years ago. So it's not like now where all the information, all the knowledge, all the people, this was something that was very underground, very quiet, and so at that point, I just needed to understand what was the depths of this. And I started studying it more and more. And I started going in on trips over and over and over again and taking my wives through trips. I'm a polygynist, so I had multiple, I had 3 wives, taking them through their trips. I'm taking their sisters and their moms. And it just started to be that I was the person that became the person to come to go through this. So after years of doing that, individuals started calling me a shaman because of some of the information that was being given to me while I would be on these trips, and I would come back and I would be telling and sharing this with other people. And so at that point, people really started to look at me a little different and to respect me for my works. So as I began to travel around the world, I started running into other medicine workers, and they used to ask me about the things that I utilize to assist my clients with their mental, emotional, and physical well-being. And I was introduced first to what's called Kambo, which is from the phylum Medusa bicolor tree frog. It secretes it lets out a secretion that, because in the Amazon, everything wants to kill you. The plants, the bugs, everything there is trying to destroy or kill you, fighting for. And so this little cute frog is like, how do you protect yourself? It has it oozes this secretion that is antibacterial, anti-parasitic, everything. It's the strongest cleansing and detox that you could take in the world. For those who like to have other information, if you watch 72 Most Dangerous Animals in Latin America, they speak about the Kambo frog. And when I'm watching, I'm like, one of the most dangerous. And when they brought it up, and then it got to the end of talking about it, and it says, so with everything that we said about it, you can tell that this is not really dangerous, but we felt like that it needed to be, it needed a, what is that called? An honorable mention. And I was like, wow. So that really spoke highly about it. I'm just saying that for people who want to look at other things. So anyway, so that was the first animal medicine that I came into contact with. And when I started using that for my community, it definitely changed my environment. It changed me. It changed my people. It is such a powerful medicine. I have so many testimonies of so many things that have went on and been, done with the use of Kambo. So as I continued on in my walks, the next animal medicine that was introduced to me was Bufo. Bufo alvarius, the 5-MeO DMT. It is one of the most powerful empathogens and entheogens on this planet. It is like some people speak about an altered state of consciousness. Bufo is an expanded state of consciousness. Wherever your consciousness was at after Bufo, it expands it. It doesn't alter it, it expands it. And so that became something that when I utilized it, it really changed me forever, in the sense of what I was able to understand, what I was able to accept, what I was able, that's what I mean when I say it alters my consciousness, is it literally just changed how I deal with people, period. My idea of love, my idea of community, my idea of self-acceptance, all of these things were totally changed when I was introduced to Bufo. Bufo is a psychedelic / entheogen, okay? So, again, something that wherever I go, that's one of those things that it depends on where I'm at, whether I will advise on those or not. So after dealing with that for a while, the next one that I was introduced to, I had been informed of for a while, but it was not something that is in the US, and that is snake venom therapy. And so I learned about it from my Kambo practitioner teacher, but I was also informed that you have to go to Peru or Mexico because nobody in the US is doing it. Nobody would deal with it. So many things, but I kept hearing about all of the things that it can do, from helping with brain and your neurological makeup. So people who have multiple sclerosis, have had strokes, have had anything dealing with the brain and the central nervous system, and the things like this, the monocled cobra venom is good for with the neurotoxins. The Gabon, the West African Gabon viper, It is good for the heart and heart issues. And then I could just go through the list of different venoms and everything from curing STDs, herpes, HIV, dealing with blood pressure, dealing with skin diseases, lupus, just so many different things. And it was like one of those, like, are y'all serious? This stuff deals with all of this. And so it was just something that just intrigued me so much that the first time that I was aware of a venom practitioner coming into America from Mexico, I immediately contacted them and was like, hey, what would it take for you to train me on this? And they gave me quite a bit of what it would take. And I was like, oh, all right, Cash App or Zelle. They're like, so you're going to pay this? And I'm like, yeah, from what y'all saying, for me, the financial to get this is nothing in comparison to what I'll be able to do. And so that individual came to Detroit and trained me and a few other individuals in the snake venom therapies. And at that point, we started becoming the first individuals in America who practice snake venom therapies. And so that is how all of this came to be in a quickest synopsis that I could give. Okay.
You're talking about before your snake venom training, your words, you cured yourself from PTSD. So that sounds very much like you were in the right place at the right time. Because I imagine if you were to start doing like expanding your consciousness, like you're saying with 5-MeO DMT from the bufo frog toad, then you would have a different experience if you didn't kind of put your PTSD to rest. So like, it sounds like you kind of fell into something that worked unintentionally, as far as like getting yourself into the right headspace to be able to do this. You were able to, I mean, was your intention when you took those mushrooms, like, I'm going to cure myself of PTSD?
No, not at all. At this point in time, when I had my first trip, I was, tell your story. Okay, so when I came home from the military, I was very angry, violent. My life was just kind of like, I was not pleased. And so I was what you might call a problem solver. So individuals who have problems, if they would reach out to me for the right price, I will solve those problems, right? Equalizer, if you will. Now, I'm not as good and efficient as him, but I'm nice, right? So at this point, it was actually what I would call my right-hand man, who I rode with. And, he one day said to me, yo, you need to try mushrooms. And I was like, you try mushrooms? Man, you sound crazy. I smoke weed. I don't do all of that, designer drug stuff. I'm not one of them. He was like, nah, they're not drugs. They from the earth. And I have did them. And when he said that, it was like, wait a minute, because this dude is the kind of guy who, he doesn't experiment with things. He's not the type, oh yeah, I'm going to try it out. So when he told me he did, it was like, what? You did them? He was like, yeah. And he was telling me about what he went through. And it was nothing like what I went through. He was seeing this and seeing that, and it was just so beautiful. And I was like, Whirly, all right, I'll do it. And they say, your mother used to say, if your friends went and jumped off a bridge, would you? Mom, if my friend who was horribly afraid of heights and bridges ran and jumped off that bridge, I'm going to do it. Because I know he knows something I don't know, because I know he is horrified of bridges and heights. So if he jumped off, yes, I'm going to do it. So it was kind of like that. And so once I did it, it was, okay, let's put it like this. I was no longer good to the individuals that I was working for. Like, I had since I've done that, I have not physically assaulted anybody. I have not stabbed, shot, like, I don't have violence within me. It's actually quite the opposite. Is like, I am turned off to violence. I'm turned off to the idea of violating somebody's physical with aggression and all of this. So I did not have, none of us had that idea of me going, and I'm not sure even now when I think about it, what made him say, yo, you need to take these? I'm not sure, but that was definitely not the intentions.
Sure.
But that was the side effect.
Yeah, it's almost like it changed your perception to focus more on the connection between people and appreciate that. You became more sensitive to something like that rather than viewing everybody as the other and what you could get out of them.
Definitely.
I want to turn this back to the animal medicines, and you listed quite a list of different types of like snakes and stuff that have different purposes. Have you gone through and tried all of these yourself? Have you experienced all of them?
Most definitely.
Okay.
As a snake venom practitioner, I mean, for most things, like we don't give them unless we'll do them. Like I'm not gonna, take anybody through anything that I haven't tried, tested, and made sure of what I'm saying. So I am a very big person on that. I'm not sure if y'all familiar with human design, but I am a 1-3 emotional manifesting generator, and 1-3 is investigate and martyr. So I'm the type of person that I'm going to study and investigate anything, and I'll put my own self in a place of danger or whatever else you might want to call it to make sure that this is what it is before I provide it to my people. So yeah, I definitely have and do consistently use all of these venoms. Yes, for sure.
You're like the first astronaut being shot into space.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
So, I mean, you did list a bunch of different ailments that these like snake venoms could cure. Did you take them just to experience the trip, so to speak, or did you have any ailments that you overnight, kind of similar to your PTSD, you found a remedy for, or over time? Like, has it had any effect on you?
Good question. I'm gonna answer that in two ways. First of all, I heard you say the effect or the something like that, but let me just be clear that snake venom and Kambo are not entheogens. They're not psychedelics. So you don't actually go on a trip when you use these. Kambo, which is the frog secretion, is a cleansing, detoxification, and protection. And snake venom is bioengineering. So and I'm gonna answer the question about personally. So, a matter of fact, so when I went overseas, let me talk about Kambo first. And then I'm gonna get to snake venom. When I went overseas, all of us who was in the military know anytime you go overseas, they put you down that line, and you got to walk down, and then everybody just hit you with the air guns and put all these vaccinations in you. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right. So all of this shit they pump into our blood. Once I got overseas, approximately 3 weeks later, TMI, but I was sitting in the porta potty and I happened to look down and there was a growth on my, my sexual organ. And I was like, oh shit, hold on, I know I'm promiscuous, but I use condoms like a mug. Like, so what is this? And I went to the TMC and they told me it's not an STD, it's what they would call a skin tag. And I was like, a skin tag? Well, I tag somebody else. I don't want to be it. I don't want to play this game, right? And it's like, no, it's nothing to worry about. It's nothing to don't worry about. And I'm like, that sounds good, but it's in a place where I'm like I said, I was very promiscuous. So this is not good for me. All right, well, you're good, right? So I went back to my tent, and 2 weeks later, another one grew. Okay. So the first one was like where my stomach or torso ends at and comes out to my penis. We're all grown here. It was right above that. The second one was directly on the side of my penis. So it was like, this is all bad. Like, there's not going to be anybody who doesn't notice this, right? So I went back to the TMC and the woman told me, look, we can get rid of them. I'm like, why you ain't said that the first time? She said, we could use some liquid nitrogen or something like that and freeze them off. And I'm like, well, get the ice. Let's get to it. She said, but the thing is, we cannot control how deep the freeze go. And I'm like, all right, well, I put a sweater on it. I don't get what you're saying. She said, we're saying that if it goes too deep, it might hit a neuron or a nerve ending, and you might lose the usage of this. I'm like, wait a minute. So I can have a pretty penis that don't work, or I can have one that is a little bit afflicted, but I just got to conversate through it. I'm a good talker. I'm just going to leave them there. So for 20 years, I had 2 skin tags. And I don't mean like little ones. I mean like hanging off. Like this looked like an extra long nipple on the side of my itch, right? Oh, this was horrible for 20 years. The day that I got trained in Kambo, we're going through our training, and after a couple of days, it was like, okay, it's time to administer now. You're going to try for the first time. I got my first Kambo gate right here on my arm, and 1 gate. And I laid in the grass, and I threw up, and it was, and it's like, okay, tomorrow we're going to come back, and we're going to do 3 gates. Okay, so as you get trained, you go higher and higher up in the gates. Okay, everybody's at my house for this training. It was during, I don't know if I could say it. It was during the pandemic. It was right when it started. This was like January, February of 2020. And so I did my first gate. I went to sleep. So the next morning, get up to do personal hygiene because we're going back into training. And today I got to get to 3 gates, which I'm not really in a hurry for because that 1 gate had me feeling some type of way. I get in the shower and I'm taking a shower and I start lifting my feet up, looking on the tub, because where the hell my skin tags go? Overnight, not even 12 hours, 20 years of these things being on me, 1 gate of Kambo flushed all of those heavy metals and toxins out of my body. And the next day, there was no trace. It wasn't even like, oh, this has been here 20 years and it's gone, here's a shadow. No, I had a regular penis. I had a regular, you know what I mean? Like 20 years of looking like this and now it looked like this overnight. That was my personal testimony with Kambo. Okay, so now going forward to the snake venom. I got trained in the snake venom, and moving forward, long story, but I stopped receiving the venoms from overseas and the people who were sending them. I'm not here to speak on them or whatever, but it was something that, from my point of view, you all are wrong at what you're doing. And I'll just leave that at that. They stopped sending me the venoms. And so 2 months after that, I found a lump in my testicles. Okay. I am the Detroit medicine man. I don't go to hospitals. But at this point, I'm like, oh, this is something. And I reached out again and I was refused to be given the venoms. And this is when I went on a very long, very deep, basically as a problem solver, I knew what I needed and I knew I wasn't getting it from where I had got it. And so I knew I needed to find a new way to get it. And so I went into my studies. I went into paying different universities and different establishments, the CDC, the National Institute of Health, all of these different places. I went through like 6 months of extensive research, extensive pulling of information, all of these things, because I knew that I had to figure out how to alchemize the venoms from their original state. You're not going to get them from your source, so you know what they are, but you need to learn how to turn it into what you need. And after going through this for some months, I was finally confident that I had all the information, all of everything that I need. I had my numbers, I had my mathematics, I had the understanding, I had the science, everything. Now I need to find the snakes. And I searched and I found a guy in Detroit who has a relationship with venomous snakes. And when I say that, he don't have a bunch of snakes in drawers. He has a home. And in his home, he has 20, 30 venomous snakes that live with him in his bedroom. And this made me comfortable. I don't like the idea of having snakes in a drawer. That's not, it's prison for the animals, right? And the animals are not going to be in a natural environment at all. But this guy who had them, this was more, his heart was with the animals. Let me tell you, side note, first time I met him, he came over and he's got his copperhead snake crawling over his arm. He kissing in the head. It's about, this is my baby right here. This is my baby. And I'm going, this dude is literally kissing the venomous snake in the mouth. If that snake bites you, you'll die today. He was like, this snake won't bite me. We have a relationship. This snake loves me. And so seeing that, I knew this is my guy. So I explained to him who I was. I allowed him to come over to Psychonaut Academy of Detroit. and to really see what I do with my peoples. And at that point, he realized, no, this is some stand-up ish. And if you want me to milk these venom snakes for you, I will. Boom. Got all of the snake venoms, went through the process, alchemizing them to the right rate. Then I had to, of course, as you asked, test them on myself, make sure everything is correct. After that, I took the copperhead venom and I gave myself an application of venoms on what's called the conception vessel right here on my stomach, which sends the any medicines from right here at the bottom of your lip. This is just so people are aware, I'm speaking of ancient Chinese medicine, the meridian points. What's that I'm talking about? The meridian, acupuncture. There we go. Acupuncture points and the meridians. So there's the conception vessel that goes from the bottom of your mouth down to your sexual organs. So I did the venoms on that vessel to send that venom directly. And 2 weeks later, that lump was completely gone. Since then, I have had multiple people with testicle lumps, breast lumps, and I had a woman who actually had cancer 3 times previous. She had blood cancer, breast cancer, and lung cancer. And she beat them all with chemotherapy and radiation. And a couple years ago, they told her that she now has stage 2 multiple myeloma cancer, which is basically bone marrow cancer. And she told the doctors, I'm not doing any more chemo or radiation because what I know is that made me feel worse than the cancer did. She said, I'm at the age now where I will go ahead and self-medicate on marijuana until I die. They told her, no problem. If you want, you can still come in here and we'll monitor you. So being monitored, you'll know when that day is getting close. She says, okay, fine. And she left the hospital. And one of the people in the community told her niece about us. And she told her, and she came and spoke with me, and I explained everything, the science behind it, all of this, showed her some articles, all of that. She was like, I'm with it. I'm with it. What's up? And I was like, okay, let's get you started. And I gave her, 2 treatments of copperhead venom and 2 treatments of a mix of venoms. There's 2 venoms that when you mix them together, it creates a cocktail that targets multiple myeloma cells. I didn't make this up. This is what the scientists said, okay? So I informed her of this. I gave her 2 of the copperhead and 2 of that mix. And after those 4 treatments, I gave her 1 treatment of Kambo. She went back to the doctor, it was September 26th, right, yep. And she called me and said, hey, so I just went to my appointment. It took 30 minutes. And I was like, what happened? She said, well, 1, they told me that the surgery that they had me scheduled for to remove 2 of my ribs because of the rate of deterioration, that my ribs were going to start breaking off in my body. They canceled it because my ribs are no longer deteriorating. I was like, oh, good shit. She said the golf ball sized tumor that was between my 11th and 12th rib is gone. I was like, really? And she said, and they told me that I am completely 100% cancer free. And we both cried on the phone. Okay. So that is one of my greatest testimonies. Why? Because this isn't somebody who was dealing with complementary medicine is where you're using this and this. This was straight alternative. You're not doing anything with them. She told me when she came and seen me, she said, from this day forward, you're my doctor. And I'll leave that at that. But the next time she went to the hospital, they told her she was cancer free. Now, I'm not saying anything cures, heals, treats, any of that, because the FDA says don't ever do that. So I don't. But I'm telling the story of how it went. This is how it went. She came, I told her about it. We did this. When she went back, she was cancer free. I don't know if it was the tea she was drinking or the sunlight when she sat out in the sun or her idea of life and it made her feel good, or possibly the things that are said that target certain things actually did. It's not up to me to tell people. I'm just telling the story. So when it comes to self and others, that, yeah, I definitely have my own stories of these medicines, but also I've got plenty of other people too. Yeah.
So I'm curious about the process, because like I get the entheogens, I understand what's happening with the classical psychedelics. You know, it's affecting change with the way genes express themselves. But with the venom, it's really interesting because like you talk about like it sounds like you're basically just inducing a low-grade poison. And when I think about the idea of a low-grade poison, that's like really all alcohol is. And I think about like the ritual nature of alcohol and how like it was used in the Ulyssean, how do you say that? Ulyssean mysteries, and like how death was like a potential in that. And so I'm just wondering like what's happening in the human body when it experiences that low grade poison. Is it like triggering some kind of immune response where the body's like, I choose life, and everything just kicks into hyperdrive, thus, you
Good
know?
question.
Yeah, I'm curious.
I love that question. So let me first say that a lot of us have heard this. The difference between a poison and medicine is what? Dosage.
Yeah, how much? Yeah, quantity.
Okay. So I like to say that when I think of what they call chemotherapy, when I talk to people, I tell them that that is a synthetic snake venom. It's a poison that has been alchemized to a certain rate to implement into your body that will cause changes, destruction, or alteration of different cells in your body, but will leave you alive in some cases. Let's be clear. And I also explain that the reason for that is that things that are synthetic, they're not, be careful how I say this. They're not bioactive. Is that the word I'm trying to say? They're okay. Things that are abnormal to the body causes the body to have adverse reactions to them because the body don't recognize them, right? Mm-hmm. These venoms are bioactive. These animals, we are animals, let me be clear. Humans are animals, and these animals and us are made from the same thing. The basis of the Kambo as well as the snake venom is peptides and proteins. That's the building blocks of life. So Kambo is about 7.5% peptides, and snake venom is 90% peptides. So if we are aware of what peptides are, these are, again, the building blocks and the keys, the chemical keys within the body. So what I'm saying by that is that when we use the snake venoms in a alchemized process, then these peptides have, let's just deal with what we're talking about, anti-cancer, right? The idea that a snake biting you, full force venom being injected into you, is way too much for your body to process. So once it gets to a certain point, it's going to start destroying, which is why we do it in the alchemized rate that we do it in over a 3-day process. So what we're doing is we're only adding a very, very little amount. And so when this goes in, it has certain things that it's meant to target or to do. But what happens is once it goes in and does these things, then it's spent. There's not enough of it to continue. So if I was to put 100% snake venom on one of those gates, it will fuck you up. Because once it addresses what it's addressed, it will continue to do. And so it'll go past the harmful cells, and now it'll start destroying the cells that are not. So this is why we microdose it. There's only a small amount that we use so your body can just flush out afterward. And so the next time that we introduce it to your body, it's the same thing. So it's different in the idea of pumping something into your body that once it addresses the negative cells within your body, there's still enough left over to start destroying the positive and the healthy cells. Okay, so that's the idea of, and that's what, so for snake venom, it's a 3-day process. You come the first day and I give you your first gate, one gate. So for those who might not be familiar, these are gates. You see that? I just did snake venom on myself last week. So that's what you're seeing those. So what we do is we take a little stick, we burn it on the tip and dab it on your skin, wipe that top layer of flesh off, and that opens up the gate, as we call it. And then we put the medicine on, and it absorbs into the lymphatic system, where your body takes it throughout and distributes it to the blood, your blood system. and allows them to do what they are geared to do. So the first day you take 6 gates, you go home, you come back the next day and you take 6 gates, you leave and you come back the third day and take 6 gates. So what this has done, it has boosted your immunity, your immunological system. So you was right about that. This is an immune, what does my partner call it? Immunotherapy. It does boost your immune system, but also the venoms that have the peptides that target, alter, destroy, or build up. There's cobra, no, not that. Nerve growth factor in snake venom. Nerve growth factor. There is actually assists in regrowing the nerves. There is the anti-cancer. There is the anti-tumor. There is the anti-parasitic. There is the anti-everything, right? There is the vacillation of the veins and the arteries within your system and the ability to give them plasticity, right? So if we're dealing with high blood pressure, it's a certain amount of pressure going through your veins and arteries. And now if you can actually alter your arteries to be able to open up a little bit more, or your veins to open up a little bit more, then it allows that pressure to go down. So there are so many different effects from so many different venoms. So as a practitioner, it's my job to figure out what it is that you're going through, what your body is doing, and then figuring out what peptide or protein to introduce to your body to neutralize that, to reverse that, to alter that, or to destroy things that are within your system that no longer need to be there.
It's fascinating. I sent a link out through the chat. I was doing a little Googling while you were talking. And I found a 2012 research paper done on the use of peptides to target cancer cells. In addition to that, they also comment on the anti-aging properties of peptides as well. So it's like that whole neurogenesis thing you were talking about. It almost seems like this is a product that creates like a regenerative state in the body where you can actually back it up a little bit. That's fascinating. And when you think about all the rituals and cultures that have involved venom and poison, low-grade poisons, like we were talking about, it's like it's amazing that we've forgotten this, that we've got amnesia about the utility of this. It's like doing
one thing that I like to talk about when I go through the US and do my lectures is that we all are aware of what we call plant medicines. That's where 90% of the people who call themselves alternative healers, that's what they use to heal. And I like to point out that we have the mineral kingdom, the plant kingdom, the fungi kingdom, the animal kingdom, and the kingdom of man. And all of those kingdoms have their own medicines. But all we're aware of is plant medicines. Mm-hmm. And now there is this, submersion of fungi. Lion's mane, good for regenerating the brain. Turkey tail, shiitake, maitake, all of these are fungi medicines that cause changes within the body. And so what I like to do is just kind of like bring the awareness of how we think about what we might call medicine. Sometimes we don't think through it all the way. Why would minerals be able to heal us? Fungi be able to heal us, plants be able to heal us, even humans be able to heal us, but animals, nah, I can't see that.
Yeah.
We think that these venoms are literally just for them. That would be like saying that the therapeutic value of a plant is just for the plant. The plants don't need it, right? So yeah, before I go too far, so that I'll leave that at that these animals have healing. Like I tell people, you go out in your backyard, your mother's in the house and she has breast cancer, and you go out in the backyard and you chop the head off of a rattlesnake. That rattlesnake didn't come to be killed. It came to offer you the medicines to heal your mother. But we are fearful of these things. See,
it's kind of like what you were saying about when you took psilocybin mushrooms. It's like nature is a network, so it's like there's a connectivity that all the things are flowing through, and it's like you could either choose to recognize where there's something like a medicine, or you could see it as an other and see it as just as a threat to eliminate out of your life.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And we just,
Um,
it's a lot of fear that's been given to us. Medicine of man would be prayer. There's prayer warriors
okay.
out here who can pray for you and tap into certain realms.
Okay.
Meditation is a medicine of man. Yoga is a medicine of man. Um, and one of my favorite is what we call the placebo effect.
That's a great point.
That is medicine of man.
In addition to the medicine of men too, it's what we make. Another example would be adrenaline. Another example would be serotonin. Another example would be dopamine. These are the medicines that we naturally create on our own. One of the
I can
things
see that. Yeah.
one of the things that gets me about this is we're talking about the use of plant and animal medicine, and it reminds me of the Scandinavians who would use plant and animal based medicine when they would take fly agaric and feed it to reindeer and then let them process it and drink the urine of the reindeer in order to get the
That's
second.
right.
It's like,
That's right.
Isn't that why reindeer fly with the whole Santa Claus thing?
Exactly. See, hey, don't get me started. The whole Santa Claus thing is about the shaman over what is it, Siberia. It snows so much that they say they got two entrances to their house, the front door and the top of the roof.
The chimney.
When not the chimney, but if you're seeing a person go up on top of the roof and then all of a sudden they disappear, when we say, hey, Santa Claus comes down your chimney, it was actually a door on top of the roof because of the snow being so high, right? So they say that the whole story of Santa Claus is really about the shaman of that village. They go out and they pick all the mushrooms throughout the year, and then they come and give them as blessings during the season of. That's why they use the reindeer, as you said. Also, the shaman's colors over there is red and white. Santa Claus. The Christmas tree and the ornaments. The shaman would go and pick all of the mushrooms and hang them on the tree so the sun could dry them out. So then they could put them in their bag, throw the bag over their shoulder, get on the sleigh, ride into town, climb up to your roof, come down, and take you through your entheogenic trips. Look up Santa Claus and mushrooms on YouTube, and they'll bring about there's a couple people who made some very good descriptions of what we're talking about now. So yes, most definitely.
Yeah, I believe After School has a one that they illustrate pretty well. So you definitely check that out. It's kind of funny. It's quite appropriate since this is our December event.
Right. Yes, definitely. And I just want to add on, in my practice, I am very big on using all of the kingdoms. We talk about holistic health, but then we approach things with a singular type of mindset. Because I'm a sacred animal venoms practitioner, does not mean that's all I use. When my clients come to me, we'll go through the animal medicine, and then I will give them a plant medicine, a fungi medicine, and a mineral medicine to go with their healing journey, if you will, throughout 90 days. All of the kingdoms that I can employ in assisting somebody in harm reduction specialist services, I employ them all. Just to be clear, I'm not, so a lot of people think that I'd be saying, oh man, forget that plant medicine. You need to do animal medicine. No. You need to do them all.
Sean has a question. Oh, go. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. Go ahead. No, I love questions.
Sean, did you want to unmute?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Indeed.
All right. Thanks, you guys, for sharing this. I just had several years ago, I had quite a bit of experience with a partner who had a chronic illness with a combination of like Lyme disease and mold illness, stuff like that. And one of the therapies that worked well for her was bee venom therapy. So I'm not sure if you've had a lot of experience with that, but we came up with some protocols based off some research and another gentleman in Portland who had Lyme disease, and he cured it with bee venom therapy. And we would every day sting her back, like down the spine, 10 stings, and then rotate that. But it was one of the things that really helped push her over the edge to be able to get out of bed again and live a life again. But a number of other things help too, but that was a pretty big one. And I think bees, I remember I had quite a bit of peptides in the venom as well. It's pretty easy to source. There was people we could actually get the bees through from the mail. The time we were staying out in the desert to kind of get her out of mold. Portland has a ton of mold, causes a lot of things that people may be experiencing too. But yeah, so what would be, you guys have any experience with the bee venom, or can you speak to that?
So I'm so glad you brought that up. So I am definitely a supporter of the bee venoms. However, me telling my story of who I was and how I came into this, I I have a self-induced rule that anything that I take part in nowadays cannot harm, heal, or destroy other individuals or other entities, right? So with the bee venom, my issue is the bees die after we use, because they have to sting you. When the stinger comes off, the bee dies. And so for me, it's just against my own personal. So this is why I don't do or teach the bee venom, but I do refer people to it. I don't have an issue with it, but I just can't do it myself because I'm not going to kill them. I am tapped in. I'm a spiritual individual. I create mead. I make meads. The bees are the messengers of God. So for me, again, I'm supportive of it, but I don't do it. I will teach about it. I will support it. I'll refer people. But it's just, at the Psychonaut Academy Detroit, I will not give somebody bee venom therapy just because of the bees dying, which some people let it be known that that is something that they are aware of. I mean, still just me personally, that's the reason I don't. However, I would refer it and I would tell a person you might want to try this. And you know, you can do it yourself. So that's another thing. And so yeah, so that's my answer to that. Like, you're definitely right. Bee venom is definitely an animal medicine that is just as useful, but because the bees die in the process, I can't.
Are you familiar with any of the other products? Like I take this quite a bit, the green propolis.
Oh yeah, I'm familiar with all the bee products. I use all the products. I just won't do the venoms.
The one thing that comes up for me in these therapies and stuff is that the bees were pretty reasonable, but even like this product here is like $40, and I take it because I definitely feel mold from Portland. Like it really affects my system quite a bit. I have a problem detoxing it, but
I would invite you to try Kambo.
Yeah, I've only done that one time. I think I still have the stick. You can grind some off, and I've only done it one time, but yeah, I have a pretty strong reaction to a lot of medicines. Like very, very little goes a long way with me. So I've had some pretty bad experiences too. But what about sourcing of these products, like that would be reasonable for people? Because like you know, this product lasts a month, it's $40. Like those kinds of things are quite expensive. But and I know that this company, which is, you know, great company, but gosh, you know, they probably mark it up 200-300% or something like that, you know. So making these things affordable so people can heal, I think, is also important. Otherwise we just become pharmacists, you know, and stuff like that. So I think that's kind of where I'm also interested in too. If there's like people creating it, you know, or locally or anything, like bees are pretty abundant and stuff like that. So this product doesn't kill bees, but it is very helpful.
So the question is, I'm sorry, I might have missed the question.
Yeah, is there, are you aware of like I guess affordable sources of like animal products, or you know, maybe not venom probably requires, I would probably want to be working with a practitioner, but something like propolis or something like that. Maybe there's people that create it locally that's more affordable, that doesn't go through 6 different hands to, you know what I mean, where it's really expensive.
You're talking about like over the counter stuff, that like what you were showing the bottle of?
Yeah.
Sir, if you're asking me if there's like over-the-counter snake venom products or something, not that I'm aware
No,
of.
not venom. No, I don't think I would recommend anybody doing that over the counter. I think you need to have someone like you do that. But like propolis is not a venom, but I actually have a pretty strong reaction to propolis. Like especially if I have a lot in my system, I'll get really hot. So, but are you aware of like sources for products like that for people that might be, you know, affordable? I think that's kind of the idea. People want to heal, but if it's more than going to your regular doctor or whatever, that it's all out of pocket, you know. So like you can't, everybody's paying for this out of their own pocket rather than insurance or anything like that and stuff.
So this is a controversial conversation that comes up in the medicine circles, right? And I am a very controversial person. And so my response to that is that if for the last 28 to 45 years, you have been, and not, that's why I say it's controversial, right? So the majority of my clients, let me say it like this, the majority of my clients have had something to do with what it is that is an ailment. Most of these people have dinner table diseases. Heart disease is usually from your dinner table. Alcohol, drugs, sexuality, all of these things is things that people pay for and volunteer for 40 years of their life. And then when it's like, oh my goodness, I have an ailment, I need to be cured, it's going, well, you the medicine man, why you charging me so much? You said that bottle, because affordable, that is a opinion. You said that bottle of propolis was $40, right? A bottle of Hennessy is $40. And in my community, they buy that and it's gone the next night. And then it's like, okay, whatever, right? So for me, a snake venom milker is one of the most dangerous jobs in the world, even over Marines. People like to say Marines are, well, that's what, you know, the life cycle of a Marine is, you know, whatever hours or whatever. You literally get bit once and you can die. This is one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. So the money that I pay my venom practitioner to milk, the snake herpetologist to actually care for him, what I'm saying is that I don't know a cheap way of doing things that are powerful, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like when it comes to people who look at the finances behind it, I just kind of be like, oh, well, I'm sorry. If it's too much, then okay, let me make an example. When I was just speaking about the woman who had the cancer, and when I told her about everything, she was like, oh, okay, I'm with it. I'm with it. Let's get it. She was like, how much do it cost? And I told her the cost. And then she was like, oh, yeah, no, I'm not going to be able to do that. Never mind. And I'm like, why not? She's like, I don't want to pay the money for that. And I said, okay, I'll tell you what. I'll do your venoms for you for free. And she was like, really? I said, yeah. Why? I said, because I don't have no cancer testimonials. And so I will do yours for free under the condition that I can tell your story whenever I want, however I want, and even use your name. And she was like, okay. And so we went through and she came out cancer free, right? So now when I go to places and they be like, well, I don't know, you got any testimony? Yeah, yep, you can call her. I'll give you her name. And now it's like, oh, when people have that, it's like, oh, I feel more comfortable. And so I'm saying all that to say that she was uncomfortable with the price when I first told her because she wasn't sure, right? And so now there was people who were like, oh, that shit sound like, I don't know. But then when they hear the testimony, it's like, oh shit, it's worth it. How much is your health worth? Because people go out and buy liquor, alcohol, drugs, destructive foods voluntarily. You'll go and pay $200 for a dinner at a 5-star restaurant, and the stuff that you ate really isn't for your system, you know? So for me, I don't have an answer to that. If somebody says that stuff don't sound affordable, I say, all right, no problem, right? I don't know. Like, I don't know how to, you know what I'm saying? That's what I was like, I don't know what to say about that, right? because I know that it is worth it. So one person's idea of value or worth is different than another's. And so, I don't know if I answered your question or not, but
Yeah, I have no problems with what a practitioner needs to charge. In fact, I've been familiar with many of them, and I have friends and past partners and current one that provides services like this. And I appreciate what you do, and I have no problems with what you charge. I guess I was just more asking about, like, on a local level, are there products available like what I just showed you, that because this is essentially from BioPure. They're a big company. I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Klinghardt, but he's one of the more famous Lyme disease doctors. But if I were to take the things that I might want to take to feel better, just in pills and stuff, it's could be easily $500,000 a month. I mean, when I was with my past partner, I think she spent probably $60,000 or something within a 2-year period of getting treatment for different various things, and so many different things that we tried. And it's kind of a journey out there. So, like, I guess what I was asking for on a local level, I'm not familiar with a lot of the animal products. Is there anybody locally? Because even if it's the same, honestly, we just take costs up. If it's the same and it comes from a local level, I'd rather do that than send it to a bigger company. Or if there's a local level where some of this stuff might be more affordable to get.
So for me, what I've been doing is I've been training practitioners to try to get more local practitioners. I feel like we need Kambo and snake venom practitioners in every single state. Okay, really, I feel like in every city, but if nothing else, there's one in your state that you can go to. So that's the contribution that I've been giving back, is actually teaching practitioners. At the Psychonaut Academy of Detroit, you can actually sign up to become a snake venom Kambo practitioner. So you'll be taught about the medicines, how they work, what they do, how to, all of this. So that's about the greatest thing that I can offer as far as like products that somebody can just go somewhere and pick up. Nah, it's not like that.
Okay. I have one more question. Are you familiar with any of the animal treatments, as you say it, that are effective at, I guess it would be probably just detoxing, but in my particular experience, mold there's a pretty big one for me. Are you familiar with a venom that treats that?
So first of all, I would go with Kambo, because that's what it is. It's the strongest detox that you could take on this planet. Second, I would probably lean towards the cobra, monocled cobra, because they're good for the nervous system, central nervous system, spinal cord, as well as the lungs. And so if the mold is causing breathing problems, I'm guessing, is that the main?
It's neurological and energy, basically.
Oh, neurological, even still, monocled cobra, neurotoxins, that's what it targets. So can I say that I have testimonies of clearing the mold and different things like that with this? No, just like I didn't have it for her. But that is exactly what I would lean into, is Kambo and cobra venom, probably at the same time, simultaneously, for the treatment of that. Now, am I saying that I know for sure? No, but I feel very confident that that would be something that you would utilize to address that.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
No doubt. Thank you for your questions and your patience with me.
So I'm looking over some of the notes that I made to make sure I go through asking you a couple of different things. We talked about some Kambo, snake venom, and I don't know anything about hapé, if that's how you pronounce it. So I've just been exposed to a lot of maybe what would be just a lot more common psilocybin, DMT, I hear stuff like that. So hearing these words, I'm not quite familiar Where has this kind of contributed to your practice as far as hapé?
Well, hapé or rapé is a tobacco snuff. No, excuse me, a tobacco-based that's blown through the nose. It helps with clearing of the mucus, calming of the body. Well, actually, there's so many different rapés. So some of them are grounding, some of them are slightly entheogenic, some of them are for cleansing, some of them are for spiritual connection. But it's something that's utilized usually in conjunction with the Kambo, because the Kambo, again, is for the cleansing, detoxification. You come have see, and cleansing, detoxification, and protection. So the hapé is something that's usually used in conjunction with that. It also assists with cleaning a lot of mucus. Hapé is a plant-based medicine, though. It's not actual animal medicine. It's a plant-based.
It's a tobacco.
Yes, it's tobacco grinded down into, it's tobacco ash grinded down to a very powdered form, and a lot of tribes add certain plants, sacred plants, to their rapé. So you got different types of rapé. You got eucalypto, which is eucalyptus. You got boldo, which comes from the boldo plant. You have just so many. I think upstairs in my box, I probably have about 30 different types of rapé. So, but the base of it is tobacco ash.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
I was curious, you had referred to one of these in the beginning as an empathogen. And I was trying to put my finger on which one that was.
Bufo. Oh my goodness. Heart expander, like nothing. Like some people are familiar with MDMA and it being a heart opener. Also cacao. Cacao would be what I call a minor empathogen. And MDMA would be a empathogen, and Bufo would be a super empathogen, super heart opener.
Okay. That's interesting. I was not aware of the classification of drugs until you mentioned it, so I was looking it up a little bit, and that's fascinating.
Gotcha. Yes, man. It's awesome. It is definitely awesome. And I just like to throw out there, I always advise my clients to get some training, some psychonaut training before trying Bufo. People nowadays I've got quite a few people, I want to do Bufo, and I'll be like, yo, you ever did mushrooms or ayahuasca? No, I want to do Bufo first. And I'm like, no, I wouldn't do that. I would not advise anybody to do Bufo first. Just like I wouldn't advise you to go to Harvard and you haven't been to high school. Like, wait, what? What do you mean? Like, no high school, community college, just straight from, so Bufo is like that. It's so powerful that I advise people to get some psychonaut training before actually utilizing it.
Okay. I put back into the chat box psychonautdetroit.org. Can you care to tell us a little bit about what you got going on with that organization? Like where you guys are, what's the plan moving forward? What do you have going on right now?
Well, good question. So actually, I am right now, how do I say? So for me, in the few years that I've been in this, I see that there is a heavy misunderstanding about these animal medicines. And the idea of them coming from the psychedelic community, it does a disservice to what they actually are. Okay? If you have somebody that's suffering from an ailment and they're like, wait a minute, do what? Oh, you talking about that stuff that the people who be doing mushrooms and all? Nah, I'm looking for real healing. I've had people say this to me, and I'm going, wait a minute, what are you talking about? I don't need no mushrooms and no snake venom. Wait, why did you put those two things together? Because they are together in the community. So I am actually looking to, I'm not going to close down the Psychonaut Academy of Detroit, but I'm taking the animal medicines outside of them. If you want to come to the Psychonaut Academy of Detroit and do some mushrooms or ayahuasca or all of this stuff, fine. But when it comes to these animal medicines, these are not entheogens. These are not psychedelics. These are medicines, right? And so I'm actually planning on starting a whole nother company that separates these from that. So that individuals, when they say, I heard about that and I want to come, nah, it's not, because if you say, oh, you want to do snake venom or you want to know more about it, log on to Psychonaut Detroit. Psychonaut, wait a minute, aren't those people who deal with, nah, I'm straight automatically. So I got to get that away from that. I got to separate that idea. Nobody thinks that bee venom is a right. How, like, that's why I'm like, see, that's what I'm talking about. He's like, oh yeah, I know about bee venom for healing. It's not. You don't hear about bee venom when you're talking about mushrooms and ayahuasca. So why are we talking about Kambo? And because it's indigenous medicine. So the indigenous medicine men would use them with all of these other things. But in this day and time, it's not the same. People will go to the doctor for one thing, and they'll go to their shaman for another. See, back then, you going to this individual for whatever, whether it was you're hurt, you're crazy, you need help, you need like that's who you go to. Now, the idea of the person I go to for my entheogens and my psychedelics is different than the person I go to for my healing. That's why I always tell people, I'm a shaman and a medicine man. They're not the same thing. I just happen to be both. But I need to separate them so that those people who are looking for healing and have the misconception that that's why I was like, this is not an entheogen. People be like, so what's the trip like on snake venom? There is no trip. Well, why I want to do it? Wait a minute. That's why you want to do it? Then you're asking me to, and it's like, oh, I get it. This is the Psychonaut Academy of Detroit. So I do plan on this next year coming, separating those two things.
So it's like, yeah, I feel like in the age of information that we're living in right now, there's a lot of, we have to combat a whole lot of stigma. And I think you're going to be encountering that a lot from the community with just what people are being fed from just like the news or whatever. We have to try to work through it and kind of find out some of these answers for ourselves because we're not being fed exactly everything that's going to be informative or helpful to what we understand and how we go about things.
Right. That's right.
If there's nothing else, I'm racking my brain. Brian, do you have anything?
No, I'm good. This has been fascinating. I knew nothing about animal-based medicines when we came into this. So yeah, this has just been an incredibly enlightening conversation.
I feel like I have a bunch of notes to like go and like start looking into. Actually, Sincere, you mentioned a couple, but can you mention a couple of different like I'm curious, I want to look into these specific types of snakes. Would you be able to rattle off a couple of different, no pun intended,
Yes.
a couple of different snakes just for people to research?
So monocled cobra, I always start with that one. And usually when people come to me and they're kind of interested in just experimenting with the venoms, this is the first place I take them. Let me be clear. These venoms are not just for healing. They are for spiritual attunement, okay? Character growth and development, as well as healing. And so what I mean by that is the monocled cobra and the western diamondback rattlesnake, those two are good for character growth and development. And the most things that I would refer people to take them for is for people who have issues protecting their boundaries and a closed off throat chakra. You can't say no and make a person understand, like, no, I didn't, right? When you take the venoms, it's not just that it helps with your healing, it helps with your character. This is a mystical art practice. When you take a venom of a snake and put it on your body and absorb it into your system, you are literally taking in the DNA of that snake. Just like they say when a woman has a man with a baby, she takes on characteristics of the man. Same thing with the snakes. So those two snakes specifically, the cobra, we call it the shield. A cobra's hood pops open. It looks like a shield on its head. And they cause you to feel protected. You feel like whatever reason, you know you're protected. And when somebody comes at you or deals with you or anything like that, you automatically respond like, you know you're protected. No, you're going to stop. The western diamondback rattlesnake is the sword. It makes you feel protective. So you might have been a woman who had problems protecting your boundaries, and you take this snake, not only are you going to protect yours, you see a man pushing himself up on another woman, and you'll walk up like, hey, she said stop, you jerk, get the fuck away from her. Like your energy and your whole, and you'll turn around and be like, damn, where did that come from? I usually don't speak up for myself or others. This is what we mean when we say character growth and development. So the cobra venom is one of the first that I give to people because it deals with the brain, the neurons, the nervous system, and all of this. It gives you a sense of clarity that you didn't have before. It gives you a sense of focus that you didn't have before. It cuts off what we call the monkey brain. All of these unnecessary thoughts that just be going through your head. Oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not this, I'm not that. It clears all of that. And for me, one of the greatest things, I'm a very hyper person. Once I started taking the snake venoms, I had the ability to sit on the couch, look forward, and think without moving for an hour or two. This is all from snakes. This is what a rattlesnake will sit under a rock for 10 days and not move. He's not asleep. You know how I know? Because if a mouse walks in front of him, boom, he's on it. That's the patience that snakes have. This is something that I was able to get in doing the venoms, right? So those two, copperhead, anti-tumor, anti-cancer. Fer-de-lance is that's known as the what is that of youth, the fountain of youth. Fer-de-lance snake, it actually causes you to look younger, feel younger. Also, the fer-de-lance and the water moccasin, both of those aquatic snakes, are good for the women's reproductive systems as well as the women's feminine nature. This brings that back about, as well as the libido and the moisture, the lubricating properties that women have. The Bushmaster is known as being a male energy enhancer, as well as libido enhancer. So the Bushmaster for the man and the fer-de-lance for the woman, when y'all come together, both of you all will realize, whoa, you was not like this last week. Yeah, neither was you. Shit. Okay. As I said, the West African Gabon is good for heart issues and to strengthen the heart. But it's also good for getting in contact and connection with African ancestral DNA. So we have a lot of people who do ancestral works in our community. Using the West African Gabon Viper taps you into the African DNA. What else? What other snakes? The Western Diamondback rattlesnake is also good for your organs and the strengthening of the soft organs within your body. The black-necked spitting cobra is good for the promotion of insulin release. So I had a client who had diabetes. They were coming into diabetes and they said, hey, you know, whoop, 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 you got anything for that? And I'm like, well, you know, the black-necked spitting cobra is known too. And so she came and did her session with that and reported back good results. Any of the cobras, so the king cobra, black-necked spitting cobra, monocled cobra, as well as the black mamba and the green mamba, all of those are high in neurotoxins. And we have had in our community individuals who have seen an increase in movement, dealing with multiple sclerosis, dealing with strokes, and other things that debilitate or have issues within the neurological system. Which is why the guy who asked the question, he said, "No, I'm more neurological." I went straight to the cobra. Let me think. What other snakes? What am I missing? There's a couple more that are. Fer-de-lance, I believe, is also for prostate cancer specifically, if I remember correctly, is good for that. Whereas the copperhead, I'm saying cancer, but the two that they target more specifically is lung cancer and breast cancer. So depending on what type of ailment you have, we would look at what it's doing, what it's altering, and then we'll look at the venoms that we have and what peptides. When I have my students who come to learn, they'll be like, all right, so what venom do we use for this? And they'll name an ailment. And I say, that's the wrong question. It's not a matter of what snake venom do we use for this. It's a matter of what is going on with this ailment and what peptide can neutralize it, can reverse it, can alter it, or can destroy it. And that is where we really come from. So the idea of, oh, this snake venom does this, it's more like, well, this snake venom has these peptides in them. And I teach my practitioners to go in and do the research to know which venoms have which amount of which peptides, because some of these snakes might have these peptides, but not as much as this one. Or another thing is, yeah, it might have the peptides that address, let's say, cancer cells, you know. However, it's also an anticoagulant. Well, we need to see if you would be, would an anticoagulant help you, or would that cause some type of adverse reaction? Whereas maybe the venom you need is a coagulant with anti-cancer properties. So it's a lot deeper than just what venoms do what. All of the venoms are about 90% peptides and proteins. It's a matter of knowing which peptides are in which ones, and which of those, in combination with what other medicines, will induce, alter, reverse, destroy. So I'm not sure. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah. I mean, I was just looking for just like a list of, and that you just produced a wealth of you gave me a lot to look up for sure, because I'm interested to see what how far this rabbit hole goes. And you're listing all snakes. When I think of venom, I think of, I don't know, scorpions. I think fish. I use
scorpion venoms too.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't use fish venoms because I have not sourced them yet. But let me be clear: snake venom, spider venom is also, okay. Yes. What am I saying? Not snow. What am I saying? Snow. Why am I throwing this off? It's a snail, cone snail. If I'm saying that right. Jellyfish. Platypus venom is good for cholesterol.
I didn't realize you didn't know platypus.
Have you seen a platypus? You think a platypus is going to school without protection?
I thought it would just slap him around with that tail or something like that. I didn't realize they had.
Yeah, have venoms within them. Yeah, man. So to be clear, the majority of the animals and insects that we are aware of that have what we call poisons, again, the difference of a poison and a medicine is the dosage.
Right.
That's, these majority of these can be utilized for healing. It's just it takes the right individual to research the right things. What is the poison? What is the venoms? What is the peptides? What do these constitute, and what do those things do? Because when you learn that, well, then that means I could use that for this. You know what I'm saying? There's a snake that if it bites you, it causes the craziest skin like eating away at, right? But if you alchemize it and you use it at a lower rate, there's a fungi that attacks some people's skin. And this fungi literally is attacking their skin, and where after a week or two, you can peel this off of your skin, right? Like, how we used to put glue on and then let it dry and peel it off? It's like that, but it's not taking it out of it. But this snake, no, excuse me. It's not a spider, it's a beetle. This beetle venom or poison can be applied and it will kill off that fungus and allow all of that to come. So that's what I'm saying, is like a lot of these things, we see them as poisonous. That's because they're concentrated. They're animals and bugs who carry around our venoms in a concentrated form for us to get them, alchemize them and use them at a medicinal value. You cannot patent nature.
Yeah, exactly.
So none of this that I've said since I've been here is anything that the government doesn't know about. And how do I know that? Because what they do is they take the venoms, they isolate them, and then they create a synthetic version of the different peptides in them, and they use that. There are drugs right now that are on the market that are made with synthetic snake venoms, synthetic frog venoms, synthetic scorpion venoms. They just can't patent nature. So that's why I be telling people, you know, they be like, oh, you sound crazy. And I'm like, what do you mean I'm telling you what science is saying. Just to all the listeners, I was not sitting in my house in Detroit and was like, man, I bet you snake venom do this and start giving it to people. That's not how that happened. I was educated by science, by all of these different, and I was educated on how to alchemize them into a usable source. So I'm saying that to say that this is nothing that's not known by our community, but also at the same time, a lot of people are saying like, let me just be clear, I'm not against Western medicine. I'm not. I am just a person who likes to give people an alternative too. But I just want to point out that in Western medicine, they are aware of this, and they also know that they can't patent nature, so they just create synthetic versions of it. And so, you know, that's a little something for people to be like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. So why would a synthetic version of something work better than the original? And I'll leave that at that.
And I might cut this. This is not a platform for solicitation of anything, but you're in Detroit. Do you have any knowledge of people that have come through you, or just at all, that might be practicing these types of medicines out towards like the West Coast?
You know what's crazy is I was just talking to somebody yesterday, and I told them start a advertising campaign in California, because I live in Detroit as well as Sunrise, Florida. And one thing I know is that Florida is not progressive like that. California is like alternative medicine, healthy eating, healthy life. And the majority of the practitioners that I have taught and trained come from the East Coast or the Eastern side. And I'm like, why am I not focusing on the actual state where the majority of the interest in these things lies? So I actually told somebody that I'm about to leave Florida and head to California and try to get my teachings out there, because I just feel like that is a place where, like, California is a place where people who are really into this type of stuff will really look for. So that was a good question that you asked that. And yeah, I do plan on, I'm looking to get some California students. That's what I'm looking for right now.
Okay.
Yeah. But as of this point, now Kambo is being practiced and utilized in California. But me being one of the very first snake venom practitioners in America, they're not aware of this. California is not aware. Nobody's practicing. No, you know. So, but I'm working on it.
I'm sure there are people that are practicing. I feel like you could find anything out there, but it's just a reputable or just someone that knows exactly what they're doing. Because you could also run into a lot of people that are just trying to sell you something, and it's like not exactly what you would expect.
Well, the snake venom therapy is brand new to America. So, I, like, if there's a snake venom practitioner in America, usually I know them, and they usually came. Yeah, like I am the first snake venom practitioner to operate openly in America. I am the only place that you can go to learn how to become a snake venom practitioner in America. Like I said, this was Mexico, Peru, China, all of this. So it is brand new out here. So if there is a snake venom practitioner operating in California, I would definitely like to know about them. I definitely would. Yeah.
Yeah.
Period. Like, I definitely
Well, I'm talking a little bit out of pocket just from the amount of money and stuff that you can find in California, but it being that new, then maybe not. Yeah, I'm curious to see how this develops, and just if it develops notoriety in the future, how quickly it does so. And yeah, I'm interested to see, just to keep an eye on this.
Oh yeah, people definitely tapping in. I just haven't had anybody from California, but that again, I'm over here in Detroit and Florida, so it's kind of like, you know, but I definitely am not just welcome them, but I'm actually looking for them. I'm like, I need to get some individuals from California in this class. Like I said, I feel like there should be a snake venom practitioner in every single state. Period. I mean that literally, you know.
Yeah,
and that's my goal.
Yeah, I understand. Like, what was it? Newsom vetoed the decriminalization of, what was it? Maybe psychedelics. Maybe you might know more about that, Brian. But in Oregon, I think you might get someone from Oregon sooner than you would California.
Well, but keep in mind, these are not psychedelics, though. There's no law against snake venom.
Sure. I wonder though about blanket classifications. I wonder if they would just toss it into the same thing.
No, it's not.
Maybe not.
It's not psychedelic. It's
Yeah.
this is what we call alternative medicine, right? So what I tell my students is be careful of claiming to cure, treat, prevent. FDA, right? Don't say those words. But as an alternative medicine practitioner, you can use certain herbs to assist you in your journey, right? I'm not supposed to say this herb will cure you. You can't say that. But you can practice giving people this for their own, right? So it's the same thing. So as far as legalities go, that's another reason why I'm trying to separate the psychedelics from this medicine, is because there are some people who don't or have had the idea that dealing with something like this is going to put them into trouble with the law. No, you can be a sacred animal venoms practitioner. I actually have my protection as a medicinal practitioner in America, but that's dealing with the ayahuasca and the mushrooms and the peyote and all this. But as far as
it's different.
Yeah, it's different. I get on a plane, I have my venoms on me. Like, they opened it up. What is this? Snake venoms. What? Snake venom? What you do with that?
Snake venoms on a plane.
All right, go ahead, go on back. All right, Kambo, same thing. Now that bufo, that's a little different, right? That's a little different, which is why when you come to the class, when you get certified in the Kambo and the snake venom, but the bufo is something that you have to come back for later on because of the legalities, the relationship with it, it's a little bit deeper. So yeah, so definitely, but no, there's no legalities when it comes to practicing as an animal practitioner.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I've actually had, law enforcement individuals ask me about some of the things that I've done, like, and I'm doing it, how can they get it and take part? And I'm like, oh, really? Okay. So yeah, no, this is, you'd be amazed.
Well, I appreciate you spending this time with us and clearing some of this stuff up. There's a lot of this is new to me, and I'm sure to some of the audience as well. I appreciate our guests for joining us today, and Sincere. If you guys are interested in seeing him, there's a Hulu. Is it a documentary, LSD and the Psychedelic Revolution?
That's correct.
That you're featured in that.
Yeah,
so check that out.
Geographic. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and if you're going to be watching this on YouTube and like to join us for a future show, visit our meetup page. I'll be leaving a link for that, so you could be live with our guests and be able to ask questions if you'd like to. And check the future scheduled guests that we have to see what you would be interested in. And we meet on the third Sunday of the month at 11 a.m. So with that, thank you, everyone.
Indeed.